In this video, we are going to see how to fix the CORS error in production level code. If you are using Express.js and TypeScript for your backend, you may face this production CORS error. So let me first see what is CORS. Cross-origin resource sharing is a security feature in web browsers that controls how resources on one domain can be requested from a different domain. It restricts web pages from making requests to a different domain unless the domain explicitly allows it through specific HTTP headers. So basically in the screen you are seeing is the client consider the client have the domain called example.com. So from the example.com domain, the client is asking one file called fo.css to the backend server. In the backend server, we have implemented the CORS and assigned the example.com domain as the origin. So basically the CORS will understood that, okay, the client is asking from the example.com and we have the origin as example.com. So we can share the resources. On the other hand, the CORS have assigned with example2.com domain, but the client is requesting the file resource from the domain x.com. So basically the both the domains are different. So the CORS will not share any kind of resources to the client side. So I have already developed the backend server using Express.js with TypeScript and used Prisma as the ORM. So I used Postgres as my database. So I have already developed the controllers for the users and routes and models for the users. So it's very simple application, right? Just an authentication part. So the app.ts is the main file. Actually, the entry point is the server.ts, but I have just called the app.ts inside the server.ts. So it's a very basic code. So I have used the body processor, cookie processor, and user routes, testing API, and handling unmatched routes, and handling the errors globally using the error handler. So it's very simple, right? So firstly, you can notice that. So I didn't use the course in my app.ts. So I will implement the course later. So before that, I'm just creating one users route. So which will returns a set of users. So first we will define some set of users like array of objects. So first ID is one, and then name, which is name one, right? So just a dummy data, right? So I'm just copying the data using Control Shift down arrow, and the ID could be two, name two, and the ID will be three, name three, and then ID is four, the name also four, and lost the ID which is 5, and then the name also 5, name 5, right? So just a simple users data. So I'm just using the this array of object data to pass to send response whenever the user's route is called. So request, response, and next. I'm assuming that you know Express and TypeScript. So in Express, we should have to mention the types. So request, response, and next function. So which already I imported from the Express.js. Um, so just an arrow function, response dot status 200, and JSON sending the success will be true, and sending the users data. So whenever the users API is called here, we will send the users data, which is the array of object we previously defined, right? So right here, we just sending the whole data. So I'm just stopping my server, which is already running, and then just rerunning the server using the command npm run dev, and the npm run dev, which is already defined in the package.json, which will compiles the TypeScript files, and yeah, everything looks good. So I just created one folder called frontend. So we are going to use the Next.js framework as the frontend, and later we will connect with the backend that we previously just modified something, right? And then just opened my terminal. I'm going to install the Next.js package using the bun command. If you're using npm, yeah, you are good to use. So yeah, TypeScript yes, SLint yes, Tailwind CSS yes, source directory no, app router yes, import alias no. So it may take some time for you. So yeah, once the Next.js package have installed successfully, so I'm just going to clear my screen now, and then run n bun run dev, not npm, because I'm using bun. If you are using npm, yeah, you just run npm. So this bun run dev scripts are already defined by the Next.js package, so we are good to use this. So once I click enter, and yeah, our server, I mean, local server is ready with a localhost 3000 port. So I'm just running. Yeah, we get the default page of the Next.js framework. So yeah, I'm returning to the VS Code and just closing the terminal using control backticks. In the page.tsx, we already seen that the web page, right? So everything will render from here. So I'm just deleting all and opening one React fragment and one div tag, right? So we are not going to use image, so I just clean up that. So inside the home function, we have to write some logics to fetch the user's data from the user's API in the backend, and yeah, this users, and we have to store the user data, fetch the user data in the user data variable. I mean, we are using use state, right? So user data set user data, which is equal to use state, and I'm mentioning the type of the data because we are using TypeScript, right? So we are just fetching the name, which is string, and then bracket square bracket, right? So yeah, semicolon, and then we are using use effect. So use effect, simple arrow function. I'm going to call the fetch data function. So let's create the fetch data function. Const fetch data, which is equals to an arrow function. Very simple, right? So we have to use the asynchronous, I mean, we have to make the function as asynchronous because we are using to use await. Whenever we use await, we should make the function as async. So I'm going to use Axios to fetch the data. So I'm just installing the Axios using the bun command. So once the Axios get installed, so we are good to use the Axios dot get because we are getting some data from the server side, right? So we have used the get here. So we should have to use the get over here, and just call the backend API HTTP localhost, and the port is 8000 slash users. So slash users, we have the route as slash users. So yeah, our port is 8000. I'm just cross checking, right? So yeah, and then with credentials should be true, and after that dot then we are I mean fetching the response. I'm just console log the response right now. Later we will, using the set user data, we will store the data and catch error. I'm just consoling the error as well. So yeah, everything looks good, and I'm going to, yeah, everything looks good. I'm going to the web page. Oops, we got an error. Yeah, let me fix that because we are using Next.js. So we are using use state use effect. So we should have to define this file as use client, which is rendering on the client side. Yeah, the error should go on right now. Yeah, the error will go on. I'm going to open the console. Yeah, look, we didn't implemented the CORS in the backend, so that's why it's showing the CORS origin error, right? So we didn't implemented any CORS in the backend server, so it declines the front end request, right? So yeah, we will use the CORS now. So if you didn't install the CORS, I'm just showing the command like npm install, which is I CORS. So I already installed the CORS, so I don't want to install it again. So I'm just using the CORS directly in my app.ts, which is the main file, not the entry point, one of the main file, right? So app.use CORS, I'm just mentioning the origin as http slash slash localhost colon 3000, which is a front end URL, right? So, and yeah, I'm just checking that. Yeah, 3000. So, yeah, good. And the credentials should be true. So we have to import the CORS. So I forgot to import CORS from not F41 CORS. So we have implemented the CORS and mentioned the origin of our front end URL. So I'm just refreshing our front end. Look, we get the data, right? So by using CORS, we have mentioned our front end, which is the origin, right? So now we get the data, the whole data in our console. Just showing that. So we have told that CORS, like whenever the localhost 3000 requests some API to access some data, so you should give access to that data. So if the user requesting from some other front-end URL or the front-end endpoint, so the CORS will not allow to access the data, right? So I'm just going to set the user data over here, and I'm just storing the user data. And then I'm going to display the fetched data, which is stored in the user data using the use state. So I'm just going to use the map function to display the fetched data. So user data dot map item and index, just and callback function. I'm going to return the list items. So list, we have to mention the key as index, and inside the list, just item dot name. So we will check it that, yeah, look. So we get the fetched data in our front end. So I'm just closing the console. Yeah, yeah, we are getting the data from the backend server. So yeah, I'm just going to alter some data and look. So instantly it will reflect in our front end. So whenever I change it some data in the backend, so it will reflect in our front end, right? So yeah, so everything works good. Now I'm going to build our Express.js app, I mean server. So basically, if you are using TypeScript for your backend, so you should have to build. So the build command will execute the TSC, which refers to the TypeScript configuration, the file present over here. So in here, by default, the output directory will be dist. So what does it mean is, the TypeScript basically, when the TypeScript file compiles, at the end of the compilation process, the TypeScript file will automatically converts into JS code. I mean JS file, right? So the TypeScript classes, interfaces, modules, types, everything will converts into a JavaScript file. And the JavaScript file, we can run the JavaScript file anywhere, right? So this is the magic of TypeScript. So here, look. So whatever the logic we have modified in the app.ts, which is TypeScript file, right? But in the output directory, once we have run the build command, so we can see that the changes that we have made in the ts file will convert into the JS file, right? So I already have created one repo, so I'm just going to push the latest changes to the repository. Just git add, git commit, and then last git push. So which will push the latest changes to my repo. So I'm going to deploy my backend code on the render platform. So I have already have an account. So I just sign in with Git, and yeah, you can see some of my old projects. And I'm just going to newly create a project. Uh, so it takes some time. And yeah, I'm just going to change to test. So yeah, in build command, so you should have to mention yarn. And in the start command, so I'm going to use yarn start. So which refers to when we come to the package.json over here. Let me close that. Yeah, package.json over here. So we are, by using the start command, we are running the server.js, not server.ts. The server.js file, which is present in the dist folder, which we had previously built the dist folder using the build command, right? So yeah, we should have to use the uh, JS file in production deployment. So not the TypeScript file. Always we should have to use the JS file. So I'm getting some errors over here because I didn't add the environment variables. So if you have, because I'm using Redis, so that's why it's showing the error. So I'm just simply copy all my environments variables over there. So I'm just pasting it over here and just save and redeploy. And it may take some time to deploy. Uh, Wait for a minute. Yeah. So my backend code is deployed. The deployed backend code's entry point is server.js, which is present inside the dist folder, right? So in production, we should always use the JS file, not the TS file, not the TypeScript file, right? So be remember this. And yeah, in front end, I'm using the local server again. So yeah, everything works fine because I'm using the local backend server only, right? So I'm not changed that yet. So I'm just adding the dependency uh, to prevent the multiple renders. Now I'm going to modify the front end URL. Just say not 3000, let's say 5000. But in the dist folder, we have the server, app.js file, right? So in the app.js file, it will not change. So whenever we run the build command, so then only the dist folder changes will be happen. So I'm going to run the build command over here in my terminal. npm run a build. So yeah, the build has been completed. So I'm just closing my terminal, and then let's move to the app.js, which is present inside the disk folder. Now you can see the changes like localhost 5000. Like I have modified the localhost 5000 in my app.ts, and after the build it also changed in the dist folder, which is the output directory, right? So now I'm going to add multiple domains. Let's say previously we have 3000. I'm going to change that. And this is one of the way that you can add multiple origins, right? Using the array structure. But this is not a good practice. I'm just mentioned like https my domain.com for using multiple origins. We should have to use something like this. So const allowed origin, which is equal to uh, inside the array we can define our origins. So let's say http localhost 3000 and https. For now I'm just using my domain .com. And then you have to use some callbacks over here. So app.use CORS, inside the curly braces, let's type origin colon and then origin comma callback, and then simple arrow function over here, and then just an if condition. If not, origin or oops, it's exclamatory mark, or allowed origin dot includes um, origin, right? So just a simple if condition. We are just checking, and based on the condition, we will perform the callback functions. So just callback null true. In the else condition, callback, we are throwing some errors over here. So just create a new error and then simply say an error message like your client um, URL is not allowed by CORS. Just a simple message like whatever you wanted to give, just you can give. So obviously credentials will be true at the end of the line, and yeah. So these are the this is a, best practice to define multiple origins. So you can see that. So the dist folder like the app.js is not changed yet. So now we are going to run the build command. So once the build has been done, the latest changes in the TypeScript file will be occurred in the uh, JavaScript file, which is the output directory, app.js, right? So yeah, see, it will the TypeScript compiler will automatically converts the TypeScript code into the JavaScript code. So now I'm going to the render where our backend is deployed. So in the render itself, the node command will run the dist folder. Inside the dist folder, we have the server.js file. So we have already seen that. So in production environment, it always run the JavaScript file, not the TypeScript file. So for that only, we are run the build command. So in the front end part, I created one repository, and I'm going to add the latest changes. So before that, let me check like git ignore the node modules. So just git add, and then git commit a message, like whatever message that you wanted to give, you can give. So I'm just giving like Next.js test project, and then git push, right? So it will push all the front end changes to my newly created repository. I'm just giving a refresh over here. Yeah, so everything have been added here. So for the front end deployment, I am going to deploy the front end code in the Vercel. So I already signed in. So if you are not signed in, please sign in, and I'm going to add new project, and here the latest code. I'm just importing the latest repository. The changes have been made. I'm just simply name this as client. Of course, I don't have any environment variables. I'm just hitting the deploying button. So this deployment have take some time. We will wait until the deployment have been completed. Yeah, the deployment has been completed for me. So I'm just continue to the dashboard, and then here I'm going to the domains. So because the domain name, the automatically generated by the Vercel, it's looks like ugly, right? So I'm just making this as test, like simple one. But I think yeah, test is already assigned to another project. Let add 2t, and yeah, yeah, this one is available for us. So I'm just going to the link, And here we didn't see any data over here, even in the console. Like we didn't mention the new front end URL, right? So in the backend server, right? So yeah, I'm just copying the backend server endpoint. So coming back to the front end inside the page.tsx, I'm going to change the old local server endpoint with the production deployed endpoint. So yeah, once the changes have been done, I'm just git add, git commit some messages over here like updated API endpoint, and then git push. The latest changes have been pushed to my repository, clear screen, and yeah, like going to the deployments to see the latest deploy. It's building the changes. Yeah, it's have been deployed. Yeah, once I have clicked this, so it will redirect me to the front end production. So inside the console, yeah, we are getting the error. Like we didn't add the front end URL to the backend server CORS origin, right? So that's why it's giving me the error. So let me fix that error soon. Um, in the backend, instead of mydomain.com, I'm just pasting the newly deployed front end URL. Make sure the URL should not ended up with slash. Uh, Again, I should have to build. So most of the times we forget to build the changes. So that's why we having the cause error in the production level. So make sure you have build. Yeah, the changes have been occurred in the app.js inside the disk folder. So now I'm simply git add, git commit a simple message like updated client URL, and then git push. So the render will automatically deploy my changes. So let me go to the dashboard over here. Oops, mine is not showing. Let me see that one. Why? Yeah, now it's showing. Yeah, the recent deploy, the building process have been started. Yeah, I just cut my screen record. Yeah, backend build, backend latest changes deployment also done, and the front end deployment also done. Now we can get the data from the backend server in the production server, right? So from the production server, we getting the data.